Okay, so today let us start with the process of Gauss-Seidel method. Okay, to design the C program for Gauss-Seidel method. So what we are doing here, we are just considering the first the user will enter the number of variables. So that means the system of equations. Okay, is to specified by the user how many number of variables we have to find out. It is specified here and is stored in this n variable. Okay, and then we are just declaring some of the variables. Okay, and some of the variables are coming in form of arrays. Why we are taking arrays, this will become clear once we explain the procedure. Okay, so once we are just giving the variables number, then what we have to give, we have to enter the coefficient matrix. Okay, so if you remember back for the Gauss-Seidel method or the Gauss-Jacobi method, whichever we say, the same procedure is up to this level, it is same. This is the coefficient matrix which has to be entered in a diagonally dominant fashion. Okay, and this is the source term which has to be entered. So what we are doing, we are creating a two-dimensional array to store the coefficient matrix and a one-dimensional array to store this source terms. Okay, and then we will just design the program so that if the matrix which is entered by the user is not diagonally dominant, the program will give an error message showing it is not diagonally dominant. You enter a diagonally dominant matrix. So then the seeing the error message, the user will understand it is not diagonally dominant, and it has to be arranged in such a fashion, and then he has to re-enter the matrix in the program. Okay, then only the program will run. Okay, so with that intention, what we are doing here, this ANN is the coefficient matrix, this BN will be the source term matrix. Okay, source term one dimensional matrix. Okay, so what we are asking here for I1 up to n, so n is already specified. As soon as this number of variables be specified by the user, so suppose n equal to 3, so n is 3 up to 3. So what printf will come, enter b percent b, that means you enter the source term first. Okay, so once the source term is given, it is stored in this bi variable, that is in the is array. Okay, and then what we are just saying, key for Gauss-Seidel, for Gauss-Jacobi, as it is the iteration method, so we know we have to start with an initial guess. So the user has to supply the initial guess. So the initial guess is asked for. Where it is stored, it is stored in this two-dimensional array xn 30. I have just sufficiently taken this 31 30 because this second dimension, the outer dimension, will record the number of iterations. Okay, so as it is the initial guess, so no iteration has started yet, so it is 0. So this inner one, that is the inner dimension, will demarcate how many number of variables. Suppose there are three variables, x1, x2 and x3. So x1 30, x2 30, x3 30. Okay, for x1 0 will be the initial guess for x1, x2 0 will be the initial guess for x2, and x3 0 will be the initial guess for x3. I'm just taking the particular example of n equal to 3. So these are stored like this in here. So you just keep one thing in mind, out of this two dimension, the inner dimension will indicate the variable and the outer dimension will indicate the iterative step, at which step we are calculating the value. Okay, Achha. Then what we will do, we will initialize this d1 I, that means each element of this d1 array as 0. Okay, so why suddenly we did it, this part is actually trying to keep record of this diagonally dominant part. We will just see how we will use it in short. So in first of all, for time being, I'm just saying I'm initializing it every of this array element, okay, to 0. Now what I am saying, for j running from 1 up to n, okay, then what you have to enter, we have to enter the coefficient matrix elements. So this loop is run inside this loop. So this is obvious for the two-dimensional matrix element to be entered. So ANN is the two-dimensional matrix element to be entered. So we are doing it. So this is entering the coefficients of the coefficient matrix elements, and they are stored in Aij. Okay. So with this one done, then what we are doing, then I am just again starting the loop for j running from 1 up to n. What it is doing here, under this there is a conditional loop. If j not equal to I, then this d1I, if you recall back, we have already initialized it to be 0. So whenever we are entering the first, in the first one, we are initialized to 0. So now on this conditional loop, if the condition is satisfied, then this gets updated. How it is updated, d1I plus Aij. Okay, so for j running from 1 up to, suppose j equal to 1. Okay, then d1 I, that is the first say I equal to 1 is running. Okay, so d11 will be d11 plus a11. Okay, then the next will be j not equal to I. So j not equal to I, if it is, then this will not run. So the example I said ki j equal to 1, I equal to 1, in that case this else part will run. Else part is saying what? Ki d1 will remain as it is. So d1 will remain as it is means d1 was initialized to be 0, so d1 will remain 0. Okay, for that one. Acha, if it is the first one, then for j equal to 2, I is still 1, so 2 not equal to 1, so in that case it will become 0 plus a12. Okay, then j equal to 3, obviously not equal to 1, then it will become whatever d1 1 has become, then plus a13. Okay, so ultimately it stop up to n because I am taking n to be 3. And then for the next one, again the same thing will be running for I equal to 2 from here. Okay, it will again run like this. Okay, so what actually we are doing here, I am just calculating the d1I, so as to, as I said, this part will be used for diagonal dominance checking. Okay, so for diagonal dominance checking, what we do, if you recall back, for that we do this thing. Okay, this one, summation over aij mod of aij j not equal to I we do, right? And then we divide by aii. Okay, so this is the thing, summation thing, what we do, j not equal to I thing, right? So that is what exactly we are doing here. The d1I here is exactly taking care of that numerator part. Okay, so if j not equal to I, then only you add, otherwise let it be as it is. Okay, so this part is done here. So once this is done here, then pdi is whatever you have obtained in the numerator by aii. That means this part I am doing now, this part aii part. Okay, acha, now you see it is said to be maximum of this, and for convergence what is required, ki the maximum is less than 1. So if I calculate any of this thing, any of this for I equal to 1 2 3, any of this thing, if you calculate and you see ki any one of them is greater than 1, then obviously no need of finding out the maximum. Because if any one, say I equal to 1 is becoming greater than 1, or I equal to 2 is becoming greater than 1, or I equal to 3 is becoming greater than 1, so if any one of them is becoming greater than 1, then definitely the matrix which you have provided is not diagonally dominant. That means you have to revise your matrix. Okay, so I am not going into the part of calculating the maximum. Okay, I am just giving what looping condition here. Key, see here, if pdi, that means I running from 1 to 3, the number of variables. So if pdi any of this, for any of this I is greater than 1.0, then what, then the convergence criteria is not matching because it is not diagonally dominant. Then I assign t equal to 0. T is a variable I have just declared before. I am just putting t equal to 0 and then break. Break means what? It will come out of this whole looping part. See, this if, starting from the very beginning, you see here, starting from here. Okay, and it is ending here. So starting from, you are asking the user to provide the coefficient matrix. So for each row, this is calculated. This d1 and pd is calculated. Okay, so suppose for any of the row, it is just observed ki this pd of that row is greater than 1, then definitely the matrix is not diagonally dominant. So there is no use of taking more and more matrix elements, that is no use of taking the whole coefficient matrix, the whole source term matrix or array. So suppose I am saying it is a 5 cross 5 matrix, and at third row only we are getting ki the third row is not satisfying this criteria. That means in the third row, this is violated. Ki for I equal to 3, forget about the maximum. For I equal to 3, summation over j not equal to 3, aij by summation by a33, it is becoming greater than 1. Then and there only it becomes not diagonally dominant, because this, if it is less than maximum will be less than 1, then only it will diagonally dominant. So forget about maximum. If any one of these become greater than 1, then definitely if I now take the maximum, that cannot be less than 1. So the criteria is violated. So that is what we are taking in each and every row. So that once it is violated, so no question of taking the coefficient matrix. So no question of the user wasting time entering the whole entire coefficient matrix. Suppose it is a 50 cross 50 coefficient matrix. So no question of taking the remaining part. Forget about it. The this machine will give you the message ki it is not diagonally dominant. You just revise it and input it again. So that is the thing I am doing here. So for that controlling part, what we are doing, if it is greater than 1, I assign t equal to 0 and then break. So this break will take you entirely out of this whole loop. No further taking, no further scanning will be done. This whole thing will break. Okay. And we will go into the next part. What is the next part? I am coming. Only this error message will be given. T equal to 0, break. Okay. Else t equal to 1. If it is not, suppose I equal to 1, there is no such thing is occurring, that is PDI is less than equal to 1. Okay. Then you continue. If I equal to 2, again there is no problem, continue. So throughout, if it is, you have entered a diagonally dominant matrix, so no question of any problem is coming. So the entire matrix will be, the user will be uploading the entire matrix, the source term and everything. Okay, and the checking is also done. So okay, we are starting our procedure with diagonally dominant matrix only, so the convergence will obviously occur. Okay, so for the else part, we'll take care of that thing. So here this entire thing is ending, starting from taking the coefficient matrix, taking the source term, calculating the diagonal dominance factor for each row. If it is not diagonally dominant for any of the row, cancel the whole program. Okay, so once this is done, let us go into the next part. So what is the next part? First and foremost of all, if it is the problematic part, you have not entered a diagonally dominant one and it has encountered this greater than 1 in any of the row, then t equal to 0 we have assigned. So depending on this condition, I am giving this, if t equal to 0, then what, this will come as a message, coefficient matrix is not diagonally dominant, enter a diagonally dominant matrix. Okay, so for t equal to 0, only this part will run. And now the remaining part, if it is entirely okay, we have entered a diagonally dominant matrix. So what, now we have to run the original procedure of the Gauss-Seidel method, iteration method. So here comes the else part, which takes care of the entire procedure. See, the entire procedure is running and it is ending here. Okay, so now let us focus on this part, the Gauss-Seidel method, how to perform the iteration. Achha, as I said before also, ki this x and j, here this x and 30, I am taking a sufficiently large number, ki 30 iteration steps is maximum. Okay, it is okay for 30 iteration steps, it will just converge within 30 iteration steps. You can may increase it. Okay, sufficiently many number you can just input. This depends on the problem. I cannot say just now ki what will be the standard to take. Okay, so for my problem I have taken 30. Okay, so here I am starting with j equal to 1. That means first iteration step. I have asked the user to provide the your initial guess. Now I am starting with the first iteration step. So j equal to 1 initialized. Then while j less than equal to 30, that means this is the entire number of iteration steps I am considering. So j less than equal to 30. What it is doing here? Then for I running from 1 up to n, I am initializing some variable to be 0. Okay. Then I am running another looping for I1, again running from 1 to n. Okay, so what actually we are doing here, let me just give the idea first, then it will be hopefully easier for you to understand. Key for the Gauss-Seidel method, so suppose this part is diagonally dominant part is done, then how is the iteration table coming? This is the procedure, right? If you recall back, key from the equation, each equation, what I am doing, key the first variable x1, say suppose from here, considering key it is arranged in a diagonally dominant fashion only, then x1 is calculated. So keeping x1 on the left hand side, everything else is going on the right hand side. Okay, again for the next second, x2 is kept on the left hand side, everything else goes on the right hand side. Again for x3 and x4. And for the Gauss-Seidel extra, what thing is coming? Key, suppose I am calculating the x1 at the k plus 1th iteration step, and it is the first variable to be calculated at the k plus 1th iteration step. So all the remaining variables of the previous iteration step, just the step before that, that is the kth iteration step, is considered here. Now once x1 is calculated, I go to x2 calculation. I use x1's updated value, that is k plus 1th iteration only. But x3, x4 is not yet calculated for k plus 1th step. So the previous value, that the k step value is used. Similarly for x3, I use x1 and x2's updated value, that is k plus 1th step value. And x4 is not yet calculated, so x4 k step value. And for last x4, everything is calculated, x1, x2, x3 at k plus 1 step. So every one of them is used. Okay, so this is the thing which is the main difference between Gauss-Jacobi and Gauss-Seidel method. In Gauss-Jacobi, there was no, this updated part was not taken. Everyone was taken at the kth step only. Okay, so that was easier in this. So whatever, we are doing the Gauss seidel now, let us see it. Okay. Acha, so for that thing, see the pattern ki whenever I am calculating x1 is nowhere here. The source term is here at the b1. If it is x1, then b1 is here, x2 b2 is here, x3 b3 is here, so xi bi is here. Okay. And then for any variable other than this what you are calculating, I am calculating 1, so 2 is there, 3 is there, 4 is there, so I have to introduce a variable which will take care of that thing ki it will not be equal to what you are finding. So that part is actually done by this I1 variable. So I1 will run from 1 up to n, but I1 not equal to 1, not equal to I. See what I have given here, I1 not equal to I. Okay. So for I1 not equal to I, what is going to happen here? It is going to contribute in the summation. How it is going to contribute in the summation? It is taking the coefficient matrix elements. How it is taking the coefficient matrix elements? So suppose I am considering the first row, okay, then a1 is fixed, a11, a12, a13, a14. So forget about a11, remaining a12, a13, a14. So aij or ai1 multiplied with xi1. That is the thing here coming. See, ai1, I means if I equal to 1, if I equal to 2, if I equal to 3, if I equal to 4. Okay. So ai1 for our whatever I have introduced the variable there, ai1 into xi1. So that is the thing here which is doing. See, if I1 not equal to 1, then only xi1, j, obviously j is the iteration step you are using, then ai1, that is the coefficient matrix. Now as I said, key for Gauss seidel, this is specific for Gauss seidel, key if you are calculating I1 less than I, then what is already calculated, right? For example, here here if I am calculating x2, then x1 is already calculated, so I1 is x, I1 is 1, I is 2, so I1 less than I. So in that case, I will take the updated value, that means jth iteration step. Otherwise, I will take j minus 1 only. Okay, I have considered j to be 1. Here you see I have considered j to be 1. That means I am considering the first iteration step. So if I am now calculating, say I am calculating x1, okay, then what will happen? None of the value is calculated till now. Ki x2 is not calculated at j equal to 1, x3 is not calculated at j equal to 1. If I am considering x4, then x4 is also not calculated at j equal to 1. So for I1 greater than I, what will happen? This will happen. Ki I have to take the step before it. That means I have to consider j minus 1 step value. Okay, and multiplied with I1. Okay, but if it is key, it is less than I, that means if you are not calculating x2, so x1 value is already calculated at j step. Okay, so I have to take that updated value, say xi1j. Okay, so this is the thing which is specifically coming because of the Gauss seidel method. Okay, if I1 less than I, then you have to take the value just of the updated step, that means that a jth value only, jth iteration value only. If I1 is greater than I, yes, is means I1 greater than I, then what I have to take? I have to take the value of the iteration just before it, so j minus 1 step. And what about I equal to I equal to I will not occur because this whole thing is running under I1 not equal to I. Now what about I1 equal to I? Then as we can see here, the contribution term is 0 because x1 is never multiplied when I am trying to find out x1. Again, x2 is never coming here when I am trying to find out x2, and for x3, x4, any variable you take. So if it is I1 equal to I, then it is 0. As if you can assume 0 into x1 here, 0 into x2 here, 0 into x3 here, 0 into x4 here. So that means whatever sum we have calculated, the sum will remain as it is when I1 equal to I. No contribution means what? Sum will remain as it is. So what we are giving here, so suppose I am just running for say suppose 1. Okay, then for I1 equal to 1, what will happen? They are equal. If they are equal, then sum remains as sum. But what was sum to be? Sum initial has to be 0, so it remains 0. Then for I1 equal to 2, it is not equal to 1, so it will give some contribution. Now depending on 2, it is greater than 1, So this one will not run, only this one will run. So this is obvious. For x1 calculation, x2's j step value, sorry, j minus 1 step value is to be taken, because it is not yet calculated. Okay, again for I1 equal to 3, I1 not equal to I, because I have taken to be 1 till now. Okay, so it will be 3 again greater than 1, so this part will run, so it will get updated. Okay, so once this is done for n equal to 3 entirely, I1 running from 1 to 3, then I will update here I equal to 2, again the same thing will run. Okay, up to here. Okay, so once this is done, the calculation part for each step is done, right? For it's the jth step, I am doing this calculation. Then what I have to do, this is the summation part we have done till now. That means only forget about this minus, this whole summation thing I have done. Again, this whole summation thing I have done. Again, this one, everything. What, depending on how many number of variables you are having, I have done that. So the next step is whatever you have added, you have to subtract from the source term. That is bi. Okay, so that is the thing I am doing here. Xij is bi minus sum, then by divided by the denominator aii. Okay, so this completes the value calculation at the j step for the ith variable. Okay, so this is done here. Achha, once you do that, what you have to do automatically, as it is an iteration method, I have to compare it with the previous step. So for that comparison, I need an extra variable. That is where hi is playing the role. This array is taking care of that comparison part. So what I am doing here, I am calculating the absolute of xij minus xij minus 1 for any of the, that means for any of the variable I am doing it. Okay, so once I do this, so this part ends here. Which part ends here? Ki the whole system of variables is calculated at the j step. The whole calculation is ending here. Now what I have to do, I have to give the check step. Check step means what? The accuracy level has to be attended. That means whatever accuracy is asked for, if it is attended, then I have to stop. If it is not attended, then I have to go on calculating. Achha, now as it is a system of variables which we are trying to calculate, not a single variable, unlike the standard algebraic method we have done to find out a single variable, so single variable equation. Here is a system of equations, so I have to calculate the value of each and every variable, so I have to match the accuracy for each and every variable. That means if, say suppose I am, what I have done here, for say this is the initial step I0, I1 is the first step, I2 is the second step, so that is calculation I have done there. But once I have done the calculation, what I have to do, I have to check with the previous one. And in case it happens, suppose here I have marked 4 variables, 3 variables have reached accuracy, but the 4th variable or any of the 4 variables is not attaining accuracy, we cannot stop the method there, we have to go on iterating. So the loop or the conditioning which we give here should take care of that point. If any one of your variable is not satisfying the accuracy level, you go on continuing with the iteration. And if, then means what, I will check from I1 up to n. If any of the variables is giving you this mismatch, this hi is not maintaining the accuracy level, then you continue. No matter if all other variables have attained the accuracy. Okay, so that thing now I have to introduce here. Okay, so I equal to 1 I have initialized. Okay, so I less than equal to n, that means it is taking care of all the variables. As I said, accuracy is to be checked for each and every of the variables, so I less than equal to n. Okay, then if hi, so I equal to 1, so first variable I am saying, if h1 is greater than this thing, acha, I have given 3 decimal places as my requirement, so 0.4 decimal 4 zeros, then 1. Okay, this I have already discussed, I am not going into it. So hi greater than, if it is here, then accuracy is not attended. If accuracy is not attended, what I am doing, I have introduced t1 as a new variable. Okay, so t1 is taking the value j. J means at which iteration step you are not getting this accuracy, it will store that iteration step's value. That is a step, this is a 4th step, it is not occurring, so t1 equal to 4. Then I equal to n plus 1. Why I equal to n plus 1? So that this while loop does not run anymore, because while loop is running up to n. If it is becoming n plus 1, the while loop will not be executed and it will definitely come out of the while loop. So why suddenly I need it? This is the thing I am controlling, key the fact, if any one of the variable is giving a mismatch of the accuracy, no need of stopping here, you just go on into the next iteration, you have to calculate the next iteration. Okay, so no need of just so suppose I'm saying ki there are 6 variables, x2 itself is not matching the accuracy, so no need of checking whether x3 is matching the accuracy, whether x4 is matching the accuracy. No need. As soon as I am getting ki x2 is not matching the accuracy, no need of checking whether x3, x4, x5, x6 is matching the accuracy or not. I will just go into the next iteration step. Okay, so up to say j equal to 4, this is occurring. For j equal to 4, everything is calculated. Up to x1, up to x6, it is already calculated here. Okay, from here up to here it is already calculated. So at fourth step, it is checked. Suppose x2 is creating a problem, so no need of checking x3, x4 and anything. Their value are calculated, but I'm not checking whether this accuracy is maintained or not, because I have to do it. Okay, so what I'm doing, I'm just going into the next iteration step. That means j is now becoming, so suppose j equal to 4, this has problem has been encountered, ki hi is greater than h2 is greater than the accuracy level, so j is becoming 5. So again everything is calculated for all the variables, this is calculated. So now again it enters here. So suppose here now the fourth variable is creating the problem, so no need of calculating x5, x6. Again you go back here, again you just increase the iteration step, j equal to 6, again you calculate everything. Now suppose at the last I am getting ki all of this up to I, up to 1 to n, every variable you have calculated the j step value, they are matching. That means they are violating this. Violating this means what? Accuracy reached. Okay, then what I have to do, I have to go to the step key, we will now print. Okay, that means the step is completed, no further iteration required. So that part is now controlled by this else part. So else part is saying one, what? Ki I started with say 1. This part say for x1, this is not happening true. So this is true. So if this is true, then you increase I to be I plus plus. Now that means you now check for x2. Again for x2, this is holding, this is not holding true. That means h2 is less than this. That means h2 has also reached accuracy. Then you go to I plus plus. That means I now becomes 3. Then again you check. And this continues for the whole, entire number of variables which I have to. And simultaneously, I am storing the value k equal to I. That means which variable you are just now satisfying this criteria, that variable number is stored here. So suppose x3 is, suppose x1 is giving this accuracy is active achieved, that means this is not holding good, that means this part is holding good, so k equal to 1. Then again x2, again this part is not matching, that means accuracy is already reached, so k equal to 2. Okay, Acha, k equal to 1 first, then I increased, and then increased value is stored here. So for x1 which is not holding this criteria, that means x1 has already reached the accuracy, then k is storing the value 2. Okay, then again x2 is not satisfying this, that means x2 has reached the accuracy, then k is storing the value 3, and likewise. Now continuing in this way, when I less than equal to n, ultimately it will stop there. All the values have reached accuracy. Then what will happen? If k equal to n, already k has reached n, that means all the variables have reached accuracy level. Then what you have to do? You have to give the break. Why break? Because you see, this entire thing is running under the while loop j. See, the entire thing is running under the while loop j. That means what? I have sufficiently given a number of iteration steps. I do not know myself how many number of iteration steps will be required. So if I am, suppose I have given 30, but suppose after 10 step only the entire accuracy level is reached. So no need of calculating up to 30, because it is a wastage of memory and calculation power. Okay, so we won't do that. Okay, so I have to break it out. I have to break out of this while loop over this iteration. So that part is done here. If k equal to n means what? All the variables have reached accuracy. Okay, then no more need of calculating further iteration steps, so you just give the break. If not, if k not equal to n, so suppose as I gave earlier the example key that x4 is giving you problem, then what? K equal to 5, but k has not reached 6, so this will continue. So j plus plus is the command for else part. If it is all the variables are not yet reached accuracy, then you have to increase the iteration step, so j plus plus. So once it encounters j plus plus statement, what it will do, it will come back here, j will get updated, and a entire procedure will again run. Okay, so in this way we have just ended it here. Okay, and you just see one thing, key here we have created the entire iteration table which is required for our purpose of giving the accuracy or matching the accuracy level and finding out the solutions. Okay, so once this is done, then what we do, this is the printing part, iteration table. Here I have written, this is a mistake, here is the Gauss-Seidel method I have to write. Whatever, you can correct it yourself. So Gauss-Seidel method, okay. Then J running from 1 up to n, okay, x% d, okay. So x% d, this is what I'm giving, the x1, x2, x3, x4, just have to write like that. And then what you have to give, here you are creating the table. So here what I will print, first I will print the initial guess. So xi0, all the variables initial guesses will be coming in one row. Then you give a one line gap. Then for the next onwards, what I will give, the j step iteration for each variable. Okay, so j run up to what, j run up to t1. What is t1? T1, you see, recall back, t1 was storing the iteration step number up to which there was the accuracy problem. So T1 up to T1 it will run. When there is no accuracy problem, no need of giving the output. Okay. So suppose up to 15 step, there was an accuracy problem. So this printing will give you up to 15 steps. Starting from 0 up to 15 step, all the values will be shown of all the variables. Okay. So that is the thing we are doing here. J running from 1 up to T1. Okay. Under it, what I am running? The variables, right? So I running from 1 up to n. So xij. Okay. And as it is asked, I have demanded for 3 decimal places. As I said, you have to work at least with 1 decimal place more because it is iteration table. I repeat here, if it is asked for the n decimal places, you have to show at least n plus 1 decimal places in the iteration table. The ultimate output is shown in n decimal places because of the round of error. Okay. So it is asked for 3 decimal places, so I am showing here up to 4 decimal places. Okay. So this is the thing, it is coming here, and then this is for the table format. Okay. And then what? Ultimately, this gives you the table. It ends here, and then what I have to give? I have to give all the solutions, that is x1, x2, x3, x4, how many number of variables are there, you have to give that. So for that, this loop is taking care of this thing here, and each one is coming in a single line, so this slash n is given. And you see the last one is your output, because the last one, the T1, has matched your output, the last one. Okay, so I am giving here the xi T1. Okay, so I am giving here the last one as the output here. Okay, so this ends the program here. If the Seidel method runs, then it has to end here only. See the else part. If it runs, then we are just calculating the iteration in each step, and the Seidel method is followed, and then accuracy check is done, and then ultimately accuracy check for each and every variable is done, and then ultimately we are stopping at the iteration where we are getting the value, and ultimately we are giving the printout part. Okay, so let us see now one example where this is executed.